Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you again, as always. If it's your first time here, then it is good to see you. Well, in this episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft, it's one of our regular weekend discussions on some sort of airsoft related subject, all about our wonderful sport Airsoft. If you may recall, if you've been following the channel, I did an introduction for newer players and maybe some points that more experienced players would enjoy, of an introduction to airsoft pistols, primarily gas pistols, sidearms in general in airsoft. And in that video, which I'll put a link to in the description if you haven't seen that one yet, I did mention that I would go through some basic routine maintenance that you might want to do on your gas blowback pistols. So that's what we're going to look at today. Before we get into that, as I mentioned, I did do a previous video. If you are enjoying my series of videos, then do please subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss out on any of my regular uploads. I'll normally look to upload a gameplay video of some sort midweek, and I will normally upload one of these regular weekend videos every weekend, where we'll look at airsoft gear, tech, maintenance, replica reviews, that kind of thing, a bit of everything, all revolving around our wonderful game Airsoft. So if you keep subscribed, that'll mean that you won't miss any of those regular uploads. So with that out of the way, let's get straight into it. Now, what I'm going to do first of all is I've kind of decided that I see a lot of very similar airsoft pistols as sidearms on the airsoft field. Now, a lot of pistols, a lot of gas blowback pistols, they do function very similarly for takedown, because obviously if you're going to do a proper clean of your gas blowback pistol, then really you do need to do a slight strip down of it. You don't need to do a full strip down. So one of the more common pistols you'll see on your airsoft field is a high capper. A high capper is basically based on a 1911 pistol. This is my 1911 pistol that was used in my most recent gameplay video. The takedown for 1911 and high cappers for maintenance is basically the same, as they are based on a similar system in the real steel world. And obviously that's what we're going to do here. Now, as you can probably see, this pistol is quite oiled and lubricated. This one I did clean up after my game, which brings me on to when you should do gas blowback pistol maintenance when you've been using these sidearms in the field. Now, what I would normally do is, if it's been a long time since I've used the pistol, I'd normally give it an oil up before I go to the field, which is one of the things we're doing here. On the other hand, if I've just been out to a game, regardless of whether it's dry weather, wet weather, whether it's got covered in mud or dirt, obviously if it does get covered in mud and dirt, it's even more important that you clean it. But every single time this gets used in a skirmish, or any of my gas blowback pistols get used in a skirmish, I will follow the procedure that we're going to do here and give them a clean and a fresh oil up. So in order to do that, we need to be able to take the pistol down. So before we go through the cleaning, let's have a look at two of the more common pistols that you'll see on the airsoft field: a 1911 based pistol and a G series based pistol, both of which I'm a big fan of, and you will see a lot of them on the field normally. So with the 1911 first, in order to clean the 1911, you'll notice, if you can make out on camera, that you have two notches at the top here. The rearmost notch, we need to line that up with this notch on your slide release. Okay, so when you draw that back, you'll notice that that lines up, and when that lines up, if you push up with your finger on the opposite side, you'll see a little button there. If you push back on that with your other finger, as I'm doing there, while it's in the notch, you should be able to grab that pin and remove it. Once you remove that, do not let go of the slide, because you'll now be able to slide the slide off. Now, on some 1911s such as mine, this spring and spring guide are not captive, so you might want to take hold of those and take them out. Now at this point, this is at a point where I would normally do regular maintenance, and that's how you take down the 1911. As you can see, this one has already been lubricated and cleaned, so we don't need to clean this one. However, the G series pistol that we're going to look at, we can give that a clean. So what I'll do is put this back together, which is simply a reverse. Make sure your spring guide and spring for the recoil spring do not come flying out. Slide your slide back on. As we mentioned earlier, you've got the little notch there. Line that notch up with the hole. Push the pin back in. Which is quite difficult to do at this angle. Push the pin back in and release the slide. And that should be your pistol good to go again. So that's the 1911 takedown. But for the cleaning purposes, we're going to be having a look at this G series, which is also clean, but that's another story. Now the G series gas blowbacks, one of my preferred pistols. This is a WEG19X, which I use a lot in game. In order to take down a G series pistol, in some cases it's much simpler. Some of these will stick when you try and move the slide, but they'll be too forceful, but they might need a bit more force to get slide off. If you notice on this pistol, you have a tab there and you have a tab there on both sides. In order to remove the slide, you need to pull both tabs down, pull the slide back, keep the tabs down and slide the slide forward, and it will come off like so. And then that gets us to the point where we're doing maintenance. On the majority of G series pistols, you'll find that this rebound spring and guide will be captive. They shouldn't come flying out on you. So you've taken your pistol to this level. You can strip it further. You can remove it right down so that you can take the inner barrel out and do cleaning on the barrel. But in this video, we're just doing a shortish video on the major components that I'd want to oil up as a bare minimum and clean after a skirmish. And this has mainly come about because I have been asked a few times to have a look at faults on pistols, and it's mainly been because they've been dry. They've had no lubrication. So, with that in mind, what do we use to clean? Well, I tend to use Q-tips. They come in very handy. I have a dirty rag for cleaning the dirt off the pistol, and I have a clean rag for cleaning the externals of the pistol and for spreading oil around if it's a bit clumped up. Now the type of oil that we want to use on these pistols, there are plastics. As you can see, we all know that our hop-up systems have a hop rubber, which is a form of rubber. Plastics and rubbers do not work well with petroleum-based oils or greases. They will react with plastics and rubbers and will eventually eat them away, make them brittle, make them ineffective. So we want to ensure that we use pure silicone oil or pure silicone grease. Now in my case, I use RC shock oil. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get some of this. It comes in various weights, so that's how runny it is, and it is 100% pure silicone based oil. So this is not going to damage any of your components in your airsoft pistols or indeed any of your replicas. Grease, if you choose to use grease, I like Abbey silicone gun grease. It's silicone, it's 100% silicone. Again, this will not damage any of the components in your airsoft replica. It's safe with plastics and rubbers. So, with regard to how you clean your pistol and how you maintain it, there was a lot of differences online. Lots of people have done videos, other YouTubers have done videos on how to clean your gas blowbacks. Some people go further than others. I'm just doing it the way I do it after a skirmish to keep the pistol running and to keep everything clean, everything lubricated and everything working well. Now this cleaning is even more important on CO2 based pistols or if you're using propane gas for your green gas pistols, because they do not tend to contain any silicone oil at all, and they will run the pistol a lot drier. With a green gas pistol, standard green gas tends to contain silicone oil in it. So things like your blowback unit, your nozzle, they tend to get lubricated by the gas as it has silicone in it. That is predominantly what I use. I don't have a lot of CO2 pistols. I do have CO2 pistols. So I'm working from a logic of using green gas here. So we won't be looking at lubricating the blowback unit or nozzle. If you want to look at a complete strip down of a pistol slide, I'm happy to do that. Drop me a comment below and let me know if you want me to do a video showing you how to completely strip your pistol slide and swap components and a thorough clean. But this is just after a skirmish and a skirmish clean. So what would I do? So I've taken my upper off, my slides off. If I was starting pistol cleaning, I would use my dirty rag first to get all the dirt off. If the pistol has got dirty, which in a lot of cases in outdoor games it may very well done. If it's got rainwater on it, I like to dry everything off, try and prevent any rust if there's going to be anywhere that gets rust. So we clean that off. I'll tend to clean the outside of the slide once it's back on. Now as for cleaning up your components on the pistol, I like to use a Q-tip if I'm going for it. And I basically want to clean any metal on metal contact areas or anywhere where you get a bit of friction. Now as you can see, my pistols are clean, so I don't know if you can make that out on camera. There is a slight bit of dirt on there, but not a huge amount of dirt. The majority of it is just silicone oil. But this is what I would do. So I would pay particular attention to cleaning dirt and grime from these areas, which are, as you can see from the word, the runners for the slide. Pay particular attention to cleaning the rear of the trigger mechanism here, and the hammer mechanism, should I say. Make sure these springs are cleaned off and no chance of any rust getting in there. The screw heads, basically everything in this frame section here, I would want to clean up a little bit. Possibly get in here if you can, a little bit on the trigger, but we'll mainly clean that with oil. From the slide point of view, I would maybe run my Q-tip along the edge of the slide. Again, you can see there's oil on there. Anywhere that's going to get metal on metal contact, especially these areas here, if you can make that out on camera, down here, I would clean all of those out. As you can see, they're oiled. This is your hop unit, so you don't really need to worry too much about that, but obviously if there's areas where you're noticing metal on metal contact or where dirt is forming, clean all that dirt off. Once you've cleaned it, remember to change your Q-tips regularly. And on this particular pistol, this is a polymer frame based pistol. It's still metal on metal. This is where you have to make your decision. Now you can use grease. I would use grease on the metal components that come in contact with other metal components. Sometimes. Depends on the pistol. My CZ Shadow, for example, I use grease on. If you're going to use grease, what you have to remember is that your cleaning routine is again even more important, because if grease gets dirt in it, it'll turn into an abrasive paste, and that's going to wear away components even more rapidly in some cases than if you didn't have any lubricant there at all. So what I tend to use is I use this 900 weight silicone oil, and I will use it sparingly. So we'll take our silicone oil and we'll apply a little dab to either rail. You don't need a lot, just anywhere where you think you're going to get metal on metal contact. You can make that on camera. I'll put a little bit in the hammer mech so that it can dribble its way down there. We're not stripping it down in this one. This is just after action cleaning, if you like, a little bit in the back with the trigger, and let that do its thing. Now for spreading it around, you can either use a clean Q-tip, which you might find can leave little fibres off the Q-tips. That's not always the best thing to do. Or you can use a clean rag. So just gently wipe the oil along the metal on metal contact areas until there's a nice thick layer of silicone oil on there, but not too thick, because again, if you get loads of oil on it, it's all going to dribble all over the place, and one, you're going to lose your grip on your pistol, and two, it's going to attract dirt. Oil will attract dirt. It's kind of a sticky substance, if you like. It's a lubricant, but as with any thick liquid, it will attract dirt and dust will stick in it, and again you'll end up with an abrasive paste, so you don't want that. So try and be sparing with your oil. When you come to your slide, on this again, we're basically just oiling the components that come in contact with each other. So metal on metal either side of here. Again, it doesn't matter if you get any oil on the plastic. There is a lot of logic to removing your inner barrel and just putting some oil on the nozzle, the feed nozzle, because that does have a spring on it. It does move back and forth. But as I say, if you're using green gas, as we're taking as an example in this case, then the green gas will lubricate that anyway. You have your runners for the upper slide here, so just try and get a little bit of silicone oil into those runners, and anywhere else that you suspect there to be metal on metal contact. Once you're happy with the level of oil, then go ahead and put your top slide back on the Glock. It's easy. You just pull it on, pull it back. Now what I like to do is once that oil's on there, I like to rack the slide a few times. You should hopefully notice that you've got a much smoother action on it. That just helps spread the oil around a little bit. Now as you noticed, there's quite a bit of oil on that now, so at this point I get my clean rag, give the pistol a good cleaning over, make sure it's nice and cleaned off, nice and dry. And once we've done that, that pistol is ready for putting away. That is your pistol oiled up and ready for use. So I'll put that to one side. Now, as well as the pistol, you do have your gas magazines. Now, I would argue that I never leave my magazines empty. I don't like to leave them completely empty. You don't need to leave them completely full, but if you've been using it in a game and it's got halfway down, then leaving half the gas in there is absolutely fine. That's not an issue at all. You're actually better to leave some green gas in the magazine because the silicone oil in the green gas will help to lubricate the O-rings within the magazine. That being said, we can give it a helping hand to stop it drying out. So I would always clean my magazines off, especially if they've got wet during a game, such as in a pouch, or if they've dropped on the floor or got any dirt on them, I would clean them out. Then once they're cleaned, I would pay particular attention to this, which is the knocker valve, the O-ring here which seals up against your slide, and your fill valve. And all I would do to keep those in reasonable condition is I would put a drop of oil on the top of the valve, let it work its way around, a drop of oil into the filler valve, and a little drop of oil onto the top of the O-ring. And then once I've done that, I'll use my clean rag, just wipe off any excess, and then that's that magazine service. That's that ready to be put away in your pistol case or in your box or wherever you keep them, ready for another game, and you're all set to go. Now I would do that after every game. If I, as I said earlier, if I hadn't used the pistol for a very long time and there's a possibility that the lubrication could have dried out, then I would go through a quick lubrication of the pistol like that before the game, just to keep everything running smooth. And that keeps your pistols working well for a long time. Like I say, you can strip the whole thing down and give it a good clean. That's something you might need to do if you get a fault with the pistol, but on the whole, if you're running green gas, then you know that should be more than enough maintenance to keep your slide nice and smooth, especially on a metal pistol. This is a full metal pistol, so you've got a lot of metal on metal contact, and it'll ensure that it runs nicely for years. Okay, so that's it. That's basic field stripping and basic maintenance of a gas blowback pistol for in between skirmishes. As I mentioned earlier, if you want me to go in more detail about stripping these pistols down, get to the nozzle and taking all the slide apart, then let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to do that. I hope you found this video useful. I hope it's going to help you keep your pistols running for a long time. And if you did like the video, then please do drop a like on it. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're enjoying my series of videos, then please do subscribe to the channel, and then you won't miss any of my uploads. But until next time, thank you very much for watching.